I wanted to start today by just going back to last Wednesday briefly and giving a little bit of information that might provide some greater clarity around what happened with a number of the incidents that occurred during that game around the melee and the multiple charges that were preferred by the match review committee after the game. So there was obviously a lot of charges out of that one incident. Very unusual to see an incident of that type in the circumstances in which it arose, and certainly very unusual to see 9 charges come from one single incident in a game, be it Origin or anything else. But I just wanted to explain the information that's been provided to me by the Match Review Committee about how they arrived at their decision of Grade 1, Grade 2 and Grade 3 charges. So in the first instance, Grade 1 charges that they laid involved bench players who joined in to the melee but did not escalate it. So these were bench players who were in the middle of it, mostly trying to separate players or pull players apart, but did nothing to actually escalate the incident. So those players that were identified received a Grade 1 charge. The players who received a Grade 2 charge were players who were actually involved in the game at that point. So they were playing in the game on the field at that point. They ran in and they did escalate it. So they came in and the incident escalated as a result of their involvement. And then the third category was Grade 3 charges, and there was 2 of those, as most people would recall. And they were a bench player and a non-player who ran in and escalated the incident. So in the case of the Grade 3 charges, of course, I'm talking about Cam Murray and also Hamoli Olakuatu. So the Match Review Committee took the view not only were they not involved, but when they did become involved, they escalated the incident. So I just wanted to show you a graphic, and there's been some discussion about how did the Match Review Committee and how did the referees, how were they able to deal with these incidents involving players from the bench. And if we just have a look at this graphic that I've got on the screen, this is under the misconduct provision of the laws of the game. And it says power to dismiss in the event of misconduct by a player, the referee shall, at his or her discretion, caution, temporarily suspend for 10 minutes or dismiss the offender. Now, control of players, point 7, the players are under the control of the referee from the time they enter the playing area until the time that they leave it. Now, the playing area, of course, is also defined under the rules. And the playing area is the area that's enclosed by the fence or other such line of demarcation which prevents the encroachment of spectators. So once anyone is inside the perimeter fence of the field, which is called the playing area, as opposed to the field of play. The field of play is bounded by the touch lines and the dead ball lines, but the playing area is anywhere inside that fence. Now, once players come inside that area, they can be dealt with under the misconduct provisions of the laws of the game. So that's why the referee was able to deal with all of the players, whether they were on the bench or came from the dugout area or came from the field of play to get involved in the melee, and they were able to separate them based on the differentiation that I just took you through, and how they could be dealt with not only by the referee on the field but also by the Match Review Committee, regardless of whether they were actually playing in the game at that time or not. Any questions on that one?
That's pertinent to the Olakuatu part where he was charged by the Match Review Committee, but he wasn't technically in the 17, I suppose, the whole playing area part of it.
That's correct. So because he was in his civilian clothes, for want of a better term, and wasn't stripped to play because he wasn't part of the starting lineup, he still is a player as registered with the NRL. So he has a standard playing contract that he signs, obviously, to play in the NRL. So he still meets the definition of a player. And, of course, under the laws of the game, as a player, a registered player as opposed to the player in that game. So I know I'm differentiating between terms, but this is technically how it gets dealt with. So he's a registered player and he got involved in that incident. And because that was an on-field incident, or spilled over the touchline, but it was effectively during the game, that's why it was able to be dealt with by the match review committee and also by the referee on the field. Okay, so hopefully that just clears up something that was very unusual, highly unusual. Hopefully we won't see anything like that again, but to have that type of incident break out near the bench area, to have players from not only the field but players from the bench areas and in fact away from the bench area get involved, that's how it was dealt with.
And just one more, obviously, I think Cherry Evans on the night and a few former Queensland players have come out and said Cam Murray should have been sent off. Can you give a view on that, whether the sin bin was sufficient?
Yeah, well, look, that sort of decision is purely at the discretion of the referee. So they have to take into consideration the circumstances that unfold in front of them, and they have to make a decision. So the fact that he was sent to the sin bin as opposed to being sent off altogether is entirely a call for the referee.
Because did Ashley say something along the lines of, I'm going to send him, or if he gets involved, he's to be sent?
Yeah, look, I think there was something along those lines that now, whether he was talking to the bunker or not, or just running through the process himself, or his initial impressions, but the whole reason the bunker is there, I mean, that was obviously a very confusing period. There were a lot of players involved at various levels, as I've just mentioned, in terms of charges, and ultimately he has to make a decision, and the decision he made was the sin bin.